What's up, everyone? Welcome back to this episode of the Auto Detailing Podcast. This is Jimbo. I'll be your host today, and this episode is sponsored by me. It's sponsored by my product brand, jimbosdetailing.com. As of the time of this recording, I have two products. One is called Shell. It is by far the best ceramic spray coating I've ever tried. Super durable. You may have seen that torture test over on YouTube. I'll make sure to link it below. And then I have another product called Pure Magic Cleaner, which is an acid-based hard water spot and soap booster. Kind of does a bunch of different cleaning things for the exterior of your car. It is not an APC. That's kind of becoming one of the most common misconceptions. So if you would, you could check out jimbosdetailing.com. We'll get you to the products. And then if you use code podcast, that's going to get you free shipping. And when I see that, I always pick random people to either upgrade their shipping or throw in a little extra or kind of fun things that I like to do because it's my own product brand. But today I wanted to talk about on the podcast something that I personally didn't know. And so I feel like some other people may not know. Maybe I'm the only person that doesn't know this, and then this podcast would be very boring for you. But it has to do with wash and wax soaps, and there was something I really didn't know, but I was starting to have some issues, and it started to make me a little bit scared and a little bit worried. And so I was using some wash and wax soaps, and even one soap that wasn't a wash and wax soap, but contained some carnauba in there. And I was getting some what looked like some early degradation on some ceramic coatings that I had applied. And I was very worried about that. Now, I don't traditionally, I like Pure Wash by Turtle Wax. That's kind of my favorite soap right now. And it's just as the name states, it's just a pure soap, just a regular run-of-the-mill pH neutral soap. But I'd run out, and all I had on hand was a couple wash and wax soaps, which I traditionally don't really use. I just don't see the need for them. And so I kind of just tend to not use them. I just like a regular run-of-the-mill soap. I actually prefer, boosting my soap a little bit. So that's where I'll put like an ounce or two of Pure Magic Cleaner into a soap just for some added cleaning ability. It revives coatings usually, but on this particular instance, I didn't do that. And I used a wash and wax soap. And after I washed the car, I foamed it. It looked like the ceramic coating had kind of died a little bit on the surface. And I was like, wow, that shouldn't, this is its first wash. That shouldn't be dying. That's like Cerakote territory, like what's going on here? And this is my own wipe-on coating. So I knew that it was tried and true, right? I just knew it was. And so I talked to Walter, the chemist, and I was like, hey, Walter, like, what's going on with this? I used this wash and wax soap, and, the coating had fully cured, but it kind of looked like the coating was dead. Like, what is going on here? Did I get a bad batch, or did I apply it wrong? Did I not wait till, I'm all messed up from all these other product brands that have overcomplicated the process. And even me knowing a lot of the back end things, I still get sucked into the marketing that these brands talk about, right? Oh, it didn't fully cure. You didn't apply it right. The temperature was too cold. It was too warm. You had too much dust in the air. You didn't do this right. You didn't, panel prep it right. All these things, it still messes me up. So I still get confused, right? And so luckily for me, I have a chemist that actually knows what they're talking about that I can go to and then get the real information instead of just the marketing information, which is nice. And then that is the reason for this podcast today, is that to bring in this information straight from the chemist that I did not know, that I think is really pertinent to knowing and just kind of banking in your head for later use, because I didn't know it. So I went to Walter and I said to Walter, this is what's going on. I don't think this should be happening. Can you help me explain? Can you explain to me what is going on? And this is the exact response I got from Walter. And I thought it was so interesting that I just had to put it into a podcast. And he says, I think it may affect the coating on hydrophobicity, since carnauba emulsion in a wash and wax formula is hydrophilic. It generates shine and water sheeting. And I was like, oh my gosh, that makes total sense. So using a regular car wash soap or like a low pH pre-soak will break down that carnauba film. Actually, if I just would use a regular car wash soap, boost it with Pure Magic Cleaner, it would bring back all that hydrophobicity, which I actually did And it did. And so, but I had this thought. So, and then he goes on to say, if the manufacturer does not use a carnauba and silicone emulsion in the wash and wax, it won't happen, which also brought up another point that if this is not happening with your wash and wax, you should switch your wash and wax. Now, I don't know how I feel about all this, because I think when we use a wash and wax, we're going to want to see the water beading, but we don't see that. You're actually going to see the exact opposite of that, and you're going to see hydrophilicness, so water sheeting, right? But you may see an increase in shine. So I guess that's a whole nother thing that I didn't really think about. I guess sometimes you have to test your normal thinking, because my normal thinking would say wash and wax would protect the car, would make the water bead a little bit. Carnauba wax traditionally makes water bead quite a bit, but it does protect the car. It is not going to make the water bead, but it is laying down a carnauba film. So, when people say like, oh, ceramic coatings get clogged, I guess this is kind of the same idea, is a quality, this is very confusing. This is where stuff gets really wonky. So a quality wash and wax soap will put down a film of carnauba, which will be hydrophilic, which means it will not bead water, it'll sheet water, which when you see that in your brain, you will think that you actually killed whatever protection is on the car, but really it's just masked, right? And so, but if you don't get that, if you use a wash and wax soap and you do not get that masking effect, then you know that they are not using a emulsion, which is the best type of wash and wax. So again, I realize this kind of gets into the weeds of detailing a little bit, and it may not be pertinent to everyone, but I think it's an important thing, and it's honestly reassuring to me of why I'm not going to use wash and wax soaps, because I don't want to interfere with what the true surface is. And so I need an accurate read of what is going on with the paint product or paint protection product that I have. And so, my advice to you is just to stay away from wash and wax soaps, to be honest, unless you have this in mind and you know it, but you're kind of getting a false reading. And then it being a carnauba, which usually carnauba emulsion, I guess, which is usually used in wash and wax soaps, it's not a super durable layer of anything. So not only are you getting a false read on any paint protection that may be on the surface, but then you're laying down some protection that's not really even durable or there, right? It'll be gone probably within the week. And so, I think what is a better alternative to this is just using something like Pure Wash, or just using a straight regular car wash shampoo and then topping off whatever paint protection you have on it. So you're not getting a false reading, and then you're going to use something like Hardest Shell by me, because it's super easy to use. People are using it as drying aids. You can use it when the car's completely dry. You can use it, like I said, as a drying aid, and it works like that as well. But then you will know when you use a true pH neutral soap with nothing that's going to make the water hydrophilic or anything like that, you can get a true read for what the surface is actually doing, and the surface tension and kind of all that fun stuff. So I thought that was super interesting to hear. And so if you are using a wash and wax soap and you're paying more for that wash and wax soap and you're not having this happen, it probably means that you're not using a quality wash and wax soap, and you're kind of just getting burned for a few extra bucks, which maybe you like it. And in that case, if you do, good for you. But it's kind of weird, because it's kind of counterintuitive of like, I'm putting protection on the car, but you're putting protection on the car that doesn't look like protection. Or unless you could read it, I guess this would be the big caveat. If you could read that it's hydrophilic, so reading that it's hydrophilic, the water will dissipate faster. So it won't kind of stick. When you have no protection on the car, I guess the water kind of sticks to the surface. Whereas if a surface is hydrophilic, it is going to sheet the water a lot faster. So I guess that's the one. But to be honest, everyone looks for the water beading. So I do, as I'm thinking out loud as I say this, I guess one thing that if you know this information that could be beneficial is if you do have a good base layer of protection, and then you do want that hydrophilicness, or you do want the water to be hydrophilic. I know a couple people, I think Brian with Apex, tried to create a hydrophilic spray, and obviously didn't do well because everyone wants water beading. But if you are one of the ones that don't want water beading, you just use a high quality Carnauba emulsion wash and wax. And as long as you know, maybe it's your personal vehicle or a vehicle that you maintain often, you know that you have that base layer of protection. And then you can use a wash and wax soap as a maintenance soap, and then you will get that hydrophilicness, I guess. But again, I personally don't like that because I like to be able to read the surface tension and surface protection on the car. And so I don't do that. I just boost it with either a Pure Magic cleaner or maybe use a strip soap or something like that to get the surface really clean. And I'm working on a couple soaps too for this that aren't like high pH, but they're more of a touchless soap. I'm working on a couple options with Walter right now. And so anyway, with that, I just thought that was pertinent information that I didn't know. I thought it would be interesting for other people to know. I realized that it's a little bit in the technical aspect of detailing, but I think that it might, having that information, here's how I looked at it. Having that information in the back of my head was valuable information that I could potentially share, and it could potentially help resolve some issues that may arise in the future. So something like you ceramic coat a customer's car, they're using a wash and wax soap because they think that'd be best, and they hit you up and they're like, hey, my car's not hydrophobic anymore. What's going on? And as you try to kind of, problem solve through this, if you find that they're using a wash and wax soap, that could be your huckleberry right there. And you can be like, boom, that's the reason why it's not hydrophobic. Try this, see if the hydrophobics come back, and boom, they probably will. And then you save the day by just switching up something simple like a soap. So that's why I wanted to put it in podcast form, because without a doubt, someone is going to have that issue at some point. And I think having information like this in the back of your head could help you really troubleshoot, because 99% of detailing, honestly, is just troubleshooting, which is actually the fun part about it. And so, yeah, but jimbosdetailing.com, hardest shell, Pure Magic cleaner, boost your soap, add a super durable layer of protection. I really want to say thank you to everyone who's supported. We've had a ton of orders. It's actually been a bit overwhelming, but it's very, very exciting. I'm very hopeful. The whole vision for this is to make it a really big brand. Quite honestly, I never wanted to have a big detailing business. I run everything pretty lean. And then I never wanted to have my own product brand, but now having my own product brand and seeing how good of products I can produce and make, and I'm not just tooting my own horn. I have a really good person in Walter who can really make these crazy ideas that I have in my head, and then gives me very good, valuable information like I just talked about in this podcast. And so that gives me confidence that I truly think the products that I put out are the best in the world. And when I compare, I do all these torture tests and I compare products that are just subpar, it boosts my confidence even more that this doesn't have to be like this. We could have great products that deliver on every last detail. And so jimbosdetailing.com is just in the infancy stages of building out that line. So I only have 2. And so your support helps to build that line out and produce more and more quality products, because I'm always doing a little R&D. You know what I mean? So jimbosdetailing.com. Don't forget to use code podcast. That's going to save you some money on shipping and get you free shipping. And of course, I appreciate the support. It's really, I could do a whole nother podcast on how I was really feeling jaded, but really feel encouraged now. And that's a great feeling to have. So I might do a whole podcast on that next. But anyway, jimbosdetailing.com. Use code podcast. And that's it for now. Thanks for listening. Hope you got some value out of that. I'll catch you on the next one. See ya.